burden is on the prosecution. So I think now that we picked a jury, which is the most important part of trying a case, now the government's got the burden of proof. They've got to prove their case. I don't think the star witnesses and the steamy facts are going to control the outcome of this case. I really believe that it's going to be the accountants, it's going to be the secretary, it's going to be the Hope Hickses of the world as the prosecution puts their context to the case together before the jury. The jury wants to know about motive and why. Why did he do this? They already think he's done something wrong, which is why he's in court, because if he didn't do anything wrong, he wouldn't be here in the criminal justice system. At least jurors think that. But the reality is the government still got to prove their case. And I think the more mundane witnesses are going to prove the case more so than the porn stars and the steamy sexual testimony that we're going to hear.
Scott, what is the threshold that has been crossed? Because we have been here with high-profile criminal defendants before in the past. I'm looking at Ray Nagin, New Orleans, Kwame Kilpatrick of Detroit, Marion Barry. You and I worked that case in Washington, D.C., Blago in Chicago. What is it about this case that makes the jury so squeamish, if you will?
Well, the press coverage is one thing. Second of all, this is a very rich and powerful man, the former president, probably the most powerful defendant ever to be charged criminally. That's history making. But the other thing is, these are many times salacious details. These politicians, athletes, entertainers, even police officers just aren't supposed to be in court as a defendant. And so it tantalizes the very core of the human condition. At the same time, though, I can tell you, having tried cases in that courtroom, or rather in that courthouse as a former Manhattan assistant district attorney, the jurors are going to want to hear from Donald Trump. They're high risk of Donald Trump getting on the stand because we know there are at least 6 cases that the prosecution can cross-examine anymore. He's not a very nice person, at least historically, and what has been findings against him, but they want to hear him deny it and why he did this. I think the prosecution saying that they defrauded the public, you know, they tried this, the feds tried this with John Edwards 20 years ago, and it didn't fare very well. But the real issue here is, did he defraud the FEC? Did he defraud the federal tax authorities as well as the state tax authorities by fraudulently putting down that this was a legal fee as opposed to hush money? That's the core of the case.
Scott, how big of a factor could jury nullification be in this? As I mentioned, we go back to Marion Barry. He was actually caught on tape smoking crack inside a Washington hotel room, but people forget the jury didn't convict him on that count. You mentioned John Edwards. The jury, it seems, excused his behavior on that. How concerned should the DA, Alvin Bragg, be that there are so many counts tied to what appears to be one criminal act?
Yeah, well, he charged him that way for each entry into the corporate books or the finance books. But I think that actually works in his favor because each count is very similar to the other count. It's not like you've got this big, complicated set of facts. It's one set of facts. They just defrauded and changed the books 34 times with the same entry. Some of the facts might be a little different, but at the core, they listed this as a legal fee of what they paid Michael Cohen versus him reimbursing himself. As a longtime partner at a big law firm, I can tell you we get reimbursed for legal fees, but we certainly don't get reimbursed for settlements or paying settlements. And if we do, we list it that way. It's just how the rules work. And so I don't think there's a big issue with the jury being confused. If we were in Arkansas, North Carolina, or Georgia, I'd be concerned about jury nullification because of the politics of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Here, we're in New York. 70–80% of the New Yorkers are Democrats. They have a negative view or no view of Donald Trump. But I think jurors work hard. And I don't think you're going to have a jury nullification. You're going to get a verdict of guilty or not guilty here. Remember, Donald Trump is an American icon, like him or not. Everyone has an opinion of him. That doesn't mean we can't stand in judgment of him. And remember, November 22nd, 2022, Donald Trump entered this presidential race knowing he was under criminal investigation in all 4 of these cases. So he ran to the criminal justice fire. Now it's burning up on him right now. We're going to see whether he can put it out.